Hey people, so today we're going to be doing something a little different in that I want to design a character with you all, specifically Morgan Le Fay. I posted some concepts on my Instagram a while back, but I'm not especially happy with them, so I figured why not just completely start over. What's interesting about all this though is this was essentially my GCSE art exam project, the one that made me cry and want to give up on art when I first did it, so yeah. Obviously I'm not going to redo the whole thing because that would take ages, but I wanted to collect some references and draw some concept sketches and then create a finished piece for this character. So references. There were three things I intend to think about for finding my references. Firstly, my version of Morgan is gender fluid. Yes, gender fluid shapeshifters are a bit of a cliche, but to be fair, I also have like a couple of cisgender shapeshifters as well, so it's not that she's only gender fluid because they're a shapeshifter. It's just coincidental because, you know, gender and shapeshifting are not related things. So yeah, I needed male and female references. I wanted references of other people's interpretations of Morgan Le Fay, and then because most people tend to write Morgan as a villain rather than the awesome kind of anti-hero / occasional antagonist that they are, I wanted some references of similar dramatic energy characters. I'm not sure how much better I can put it than that. Unfortunately, I forgot that my story is set in a strange medieval sort of era, and so finding suitably flamboyant male characters who are dressed even somewhat appropriately was really quite difficult. Hence, two of my three references are just Magnus Bane from the Shadowhunter series. But, you know, he looks cool. I want to just clarify right now that I've spent about 6 different takes on this already. I am so tired. So if I slur my words in a couple places, it's not because I'm insane, it's just because I cannot possibly make another take of this, and we're just gonna have to go for it. I'll edit it down the best I can, but whew. So anyway, I wanted to be able to brainstorm a very masculine version and a very feminine version of the character, with the idea that I could then combine the two in different ways to make a whole scale of different Morgans. But one thing that I was definitely sure of was that I really wanted to use Catra's top piece and have that make it into at least one of the design, or hopefully several of the designs. I just really like the way it looks, and I think it gives off that kind of powerful vibe I'm going for. So I started with a feminine form. Most of the first sketches did incorporate that Catra top because, you know, it's well cute. I also took a fair amount of inspiration from BBC's Merlin's Morgana for sketching out the first dress to add some of the fabric around the waist and such. Morgan's colour palette is something that I'd already mostly worked out a while ago, although I've made a few adjustments throughout the process, and consists mostly of rich blues with gold accents in terms of jewellery and such, and blonde hair, which is something not a lot of these characters have. Most of them, because they're going for the evil vibe, have gone for pasty skin, black hair, which wasn't what I wanted. I wanted it to look a bit more mystical and mysterious, and so we've got blonde hair, tan skin, just because I thought it looked cool. For every outfit, I think the main vibe that I was going for was kind of a powerful, but with an edge of they're a bit of a drama king / queen. To be honest, one of the reasons all my main references are of Magnus Bane is because his vibe is basically the same as what I'm going for. Just, you know, a little bit more medieval, a little bit more sassy if that's possible, a little bit more likely to, you know, turn you into a frog just because you kind of annoyed them. Saying that, I do acknowledge that most of the dresses I've drawn here are fairly modern cuts, particularly the ones with the funky leg split things and such, but I'm kind of excusing the modernness because she's part fairy and so is mystical and mysterious and has better fashion sense than everyone else, and that totally makes sense. The other thing that I was also really set on was the kind of half-glove type things, because they just look really aesthetically pleasing to me, so I decided to draw her hands out and then figured why not add a heck ton of rings too. Partly because they look cool, and also partly because it's really clear that both the male and female versions of Morgan are in fact the same person if they've got the same rings on. I didn't put masses of detail into them because it's a comic and I don't want to have to redraw loads of complicated detail every single time. But I did give her one thumb ring that's got a red gem set in it, which is actually like a personal little Easter egg that no one else is ever going to understand, to one necklace that was involved in my original GCSE project that I drew as a study, and I drew it really well, and so then integrated it into the entire project on like a whole major ass level. So that's been transferred through because it was just like a really nice little nostalgic thing that won't mean a lot to you guys, but means a lot to me. I messed about with her hair a lot too. In my sketchbook I'd done a series of doodles, usually with either the plait of her hair down, but I tried to copy the way Morgana has hers when she's in that blue-purple dress in the reference. But I still wanted the cute little fringe pieces, and so it only looks so similar. In fact, in a much earlier version, I had given her more of a blunt fringe, or as you people in America say, I believe, bangs. You know what I mean, straight across the top. Because that's kind of how my hair is cut, and so far not a single character in my entire comic has hair that looks like that. But somehow the high collar dresses and the fringe together made her look decidedly not medieval British, to the extent that it was kind of jarring. And that's honestly one of the reasons why I started this whole video, because something about her just didn't look like it fit in the world with everyone else. And so we've gone for a bit of a wilder approach here. As for the male version of Morgan, I settled on something I like a lot quicker, I think. I tried the shirt with the poofy sleeves once, and then after that went for the triangular topped tank top type thing, and that was kind of that. I did for a while recall that this whole story is set in the UK in like the 400s-ish, and so is hecking freezing in this country, and I should probably, give my characters long sleeves, so they, don't die of frostbite. But then I remembered that I've barely stuck to that with the others anyway, and Morgan's an enchanter, so I'm fairly certain he can just do some sort of fancy stay warm spell to magically solve all of the plot holes. It's also kind of set in an alternate universe. The story takes place in England and, well, Scotland and Wales and Ireland a bit too. But it is kind of in a parallel universe to our own, in which obviously magic and fairies definitely existed, and because the original Legends of King Arthur don't have a specific timeline because they're all written all over the place, if the dude existed, I think it's about the 400s he might have existed in, but none of the other characters existed as far as we know. Anyway, point being, maybe it's just slightly warmer in this parallel universe, and so it's fine. Besides, no one ever asks questions about why in worlds like Naruto, Sakura can walk around in shorts all day, but Naruto doesn't overheat in his tracksuit. So, character design takes precedence over common sense and weather. All that in mind, though, I did add a little off-the-shoulder type cape thing, because whatever Edna Mode says, capes are cool, and it looked fancy. I think for male Morgan, I did use more of the black colour than on the female variants. I was kind of trying to toss up whether I preferred the blues with the white or the blues with the black, but I feel like the reason I did it mostly for the male variants is just because I kind of struggle to imagine brightly coloured trousers. Not that I imagine Morgan dressing particularly practically, but trousers just made more sense in the darker colours, I think, and so that happened. After both of the sketch pages were done, I made a little row of drawings, 3 with female anatomy and 3 with male anatomy, and then I drew what I imagined to be the most feminine/masculine outfits on the end 2 characters, and then mixed and matched my way in to make my little gradient. This meant I got to use a number of my ideas, and also try things like drawing the female body in what is essentially a fancy pantsuit, which I love doing, because it looks cool. I also got to add some kind of waist cape thing to one of the male anatomy drawings to give it more of a feminine silhouette and just play with that sort of stuff. And the number of times I've said masculine and feminine now is getting stupidly high, and they're starting to not sound like real words anymore. Something I loved about this stage of the process was getting to really embrace my delight in drawing more androgynous characters. For a while I was actually struggling with the male designs as he was coming across almost too androgynous for what I had originally intended, but here I got to really play with all sorts, including different sets of jewellery and different hairstyles and all sorts, and it was great. Finally, I moved on to the end project. Unlike my GCSE art exam, I did not spend 10 hours on this, mostly because I pre-recorded this before I went on holiday and started to run out of time. Which, side note, I don't know at all if I will finish this, so I have to confess that I'm recording this voiceover when I'm only halfway through the painting. I've done a line art though, so I know roughly what it's going to look like, but it's just been a crazy week and I'm getting in a car at 4 AM tomorrow morning, and so I really need to record the voiceover now so that I'm not doing it on holiday. So, crazy week guys, sorry about the hectic mess of this video. Hope you like it anyway. So for the final piece, I was once again trying to work out how to draw 2 versions of the character without them looking like different characters. The way I imagine Morgan's shapeshifting working is that they have both personal and impersonal forms that they can transform into. The personal forms would be both the bodies I've designed here, as well as any animals or creatures they change into, where they aren't copying an existing individual, but instead it's what they would look like as that animal. So I suppose at some point I'm going to have to design what Morgan would look like as a dragon, or a serpent, because they spend an alarming amount of time in the books spooking people dressed as scaly monsters. Their impersonal forms are just any time they transform to look like someone who already exists, i.e. shapeshifting into King Arthur or something. Although I'm probably going to put some kind of caveat on that power to stop people being able to claim that literally anything that ever happened in my story was just Morgan or their sister Morgause in disguise messing with people. Because that would be really chaotic. Anyway, I decided to split the drawing in half with like a mystical looking golden tree. Not because there's any golden tree in any of the stories, but because I thought it would be cool, and so I did it anyway. I also attached a banner with Morgan's sigil to it. The sigil is obviously only a first attempt at designing this sort of thing, and may very well change through time. I keep debating whether or not to use some Celtic symbols to create some of the fairy symbols and banners in my world, but I don't want to accidentally use them wrong or for the wrong thing, so I'm kind of steering clear of them for the minute and just using my own stuff. Besides, like I said, alternate parallel universe, and so maybe we don't have the same Celtic symbols. Although they're very pretty to look at, so I really should learn what some of them mean. For the two versions of Morgan, I picked the two designs from either end, drawing the most masculine form on one side and the most feminine on the other. I think I did tweak the dress a little bit more to make the waist pieces hang even lower than they did in the original, but I think it works, and I kind of now want to draw what the back of the dress would look like, because I reckon it could be quite interesting. I will admit I had a bit of a time of it though trying to get Morgan's longer hair looking right, because of the way it was on her forehead, and I ended up completely forgoing the little crown-like piece I'd designed. It's something I always notice on these sorts of drawings, but particularly found absurd when I was drawing this piece, and that's the way that actually I draw hair the same way I draw trees, dividing up with the line out the same. I also shade them rather similarly, although I should probably work to fix that, because, you know, hair, trees, not really the same, should probably look quite different. The background is something I can only say so much about, as when I'm recording this, I haven't drawn it yet. I'm suspecting that I'll either do a simple gradient on it, or possibly some golden leaf effects along the horizon, but I suppose both of us will have to wait and see how that turns out. I reckon that's about all I have to say. I'm so much happier with how Morgan's design looks now, and I really do hope you enjoyed watching this slightly different style video, and if you'd like to see it again, just when I have more time to make it properly working, then do say, because I'm more than happy to, go through my process a bit more in detail like this. If you got the time, I would obviously love if you left a comment on what you liked or didn't like down below, but otherwise, thanks for watching, and I will see you all next week. Bye!